Scott Raymond. Good morning. You may testify when you are seated.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Scott Raymond. I'm a husband, a volunteer, father, and proud grandfather. I'm here today to give testimony in support of SB 1194. I am extremely grateful to One Standard of Justice and this committee for this long-awaited opportunity. In 1996, I completed my probation, ordered by the court per my plea agreement made in 1993. Then years after being totally done with the justice system, I was forced to be put on the registry. When deciding whether or not to support this bill, I humbly ask you to focus on the injustice done to us. Please put aside the thoughts and emotions the ugly label the state has forced us to carry for decades brings. Think of this bill as an opportunity to let me live in peace after serving an additional 25-year sentence. I've been a hard-working, tax-paying citizen since I was 16 years old. I'm even a hospice volunteer, and I have been for over 7 years. Since 2011, I've had both hips and both knees replaced, yet I continue to work, usually multiple jobs, because finding quality work is practically impossible. So my 65-year-old wife of 23 years still carries a cocktail tray around Foxwoods to provide our medical benefits. I'm only 60. I should be the one providing for our needs. Let me illustrate how virtually impossible it is for me to obtain gainful employment. While working at Mohegan Sun for 18 years, I received numerous Employee of the Month and Perfect Attendance awards. In fact, I even received a special recognition from the Ritchie Corporation. It's a secret shopper company, excuse me, that Mohegan Sun hired. And at my recognition ceremony, I was told how extremely rare the award is given, and I should feel extremely honored. Now, several of my former managers who were involved in my awards and recognitions now work at Foxwoods. They want to hire me, and Foxwoods has been struggling to hire bartenders since COVID. However, even with their management, even one member of their senior management, who all know me both professionally and personally for over a decade, want to hire me. But they cannot, because human resources will not let them due to me being on the registry. Respected legislators, please take a moment and truly understand what I am saying here. In a profession that I have proved for decades to be one of the best, I cannot get hired, not even by the same people that recognize and awarded me for my abilities. I have earned and deserve better. As of this year, we have all served an additional 25-year sentence while remaining offense-free. We have earned to be truly set free. Please help us by supporting this bill. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Just for clarification, so in your case, you were completely done. In your case, you were completely done with the system.
Yes, I agreed to a 3 years probation in 1993. I completed that in 1996. The registry began in 1998. Had the registry been part of my decision to whether to take the plea agreement, I probably would have adjudicated it differently.
Okay. Representative Fishbone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for coming here today. I know it must be difficult because, we're on camera and this is a public forum. But I will tell you that your testimony is helpful here. I want you to be able to leave here today with that knowledge. I'm totally sympathetic to the situation. My procedural concern, though, we're having this issue with, you may have heard about the clean slate legislation, which is going back and erasing misdemeanors and felonies. And evidently the electronic system for the judicial branch only goes back to 2000, it started 2010. So everybody pre-2010, as part of this erasure, we're having them submit something to flag it to the judicial department to have those things erased. And I fear that we're going to run into something similar here. So would it be appropriate, would you find it to be acceptable? Because I want you to get the remedy that you're looking for, that you would be required to, and anybody else that falls into this, to submit a document that the powers that be create, like a one-page document. You know, this is my name, this is generally what my case was, make it go away. Would you be adverse to that?
Well, I don't feel it should be necessary, sir. I never should have been on the registry in the first place, and I've jumped through enough hoops. I don't think I should have to jump through any more.
I'm just looking to get through the procedure. So, I understand your answer, but we found, at least with the clean slate legislation, that while we did say certain things are going to happen, computers are a lot more up to date these days. So if we open this gate, I want everybody to be potentially eligible. I also, and I hear that you've been, as far as we know, crime-free since this incident. I guess a concern on my side of the aisle is that you've got a pending charge out there or something like that. Certainly in those cases, I think we need to look at those cases a little bit differently from my perspective. But I thank you for coming here once again and your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming in. Must be difficult for you to come and testify in public like this. I've always been a kind of tentative supporter of the registry to begin with. I understand its usefulness, and I certainly want to make sure that anybody who commits a serious sexual crime gets the punishment that they deserve. My concern, though, is for people like you who already served your sentence and already made decisions with regard to your sentence and with regard to any agreement before the registry even existed, and for the state to then come back and say, oh, never mind, we have a new penalty. It just doesn't seem right. It's almost like saying, the penalty for shoplifting is some community service, and then you do the community service, and 5 years later, the state comes back and says, oh, anybody who had a shoplifting conviction 10 years ago or less, which would include you, you now have to serve 90 days in jail. Do you know if the retroactive application of this has ever been adjudicated? Has it ever been challenged? Do you know that?
I believe there was a case from a gentleman in Alaska at a similar situation that brought it all the way to the Supreme Court, and unfortunately he was unsuccessful.
The U.S. Supreme Court?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, but that didn't relate to our statute. That was an Alaska statute.
It was a similar situation where they went retroactive in Alaska. Again, I'm not 100% positive on these facts, but this is what I recall.
I'll look into it. It just doesn't, I can't see how that's constitutional. That they would go back and give you a new penalty. Now, I guess somebody could say it's not really a penalty. It's not really part of your sentence, but I'm sure you feel otherwise. You probably feel like that. It certainly is part of your sentence.
Well, I understand what you're saying, sir. To me, it does seem like a double jeopardy situation, but I've had attorneys telling me that legally it is not that. But it definitely seems unjust to me.
well, it wouldn't be double jeopardy. It's more of an ex post facto penalty. But it doesn't seem right to me. So I appreciate your coming in and testifying to the committee about it. And, hopefully we'll be able to do something to relieve those people who are caught up in this type of thing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative. Comment or question from members of the committee? Comment or question, Representative Callahan.
Thanks, sir, for coming in, and I appreciate the conversations we've had outside. Having worked in this field for a long time, what you're explaining to me is something I'd seen in the past, and I will commend you for working hard and staying employed, because I know it's not easy when you have that scarlet letter, so to speak. So I asked questions of other speakers earlier about perhaps would you be in favor of an evaluation process, and they answer those questions very persuasively. So that's why we do these public hearings, so we can air these things out and try and figure out what the best way to implement these laws are. So how about an application process? And I'm not sure if Representative Fishbein touched on this, but for someone like yourself who would like this removed, simple application process, how would you feel about that?
Well, I don't feel it should be necessary because I'm not a threat, but I need to get off the registry to get on the rest of my life. I will do whatever I need to get off the registry, sir.
And I appreciate what you're saying. And to clarify, when you took a plea agreement on this years before the registry was instituted, you would have never taken it if you knew this was going to be retroactively applied.
Right. Well, when I took my plea, it was mostly because I didn't have $15,000 to go to court. But if this had been on it, I would have somehow found the money, sir, yes.
No, I understand. I know it's not easy to come in and testify, so I appreciate you being here in person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Comment or question from members of the committee? Comment or question from members of the committee? If not, thank you very much for joining us today.
My name is Lucy Raymond, and I am here in support of SB 1194. I am honored to be testifying here today for my husband, Scott Raymond, and others who were retroactively put on the registry in 1998. We met in 1996 and quickly realized that we were meant to be together. Scott was the kindest, most respectful, and considerate man I had ever met. We decided to move in together and blend our families. Scott had previously opened up to me about his conviction in 1993, but at that time, there was no registry requirement, so hence, no discussion regarding it. However, Scott's openness and honesty reassured me that I and my children were safe in his presence. Over the 27 years that he and I have been together, he has proven to be not only a wonderful husband, but a great father and grandfather to our 7 children and 9 grandchildren. Scott's requirement to be put on the registry has impacted all our lives in so many negative ways. Besides his inability to procure gainful employment, it became necessary that we had to discuss these issues with our children. It is also becoming obvious, unless this bill passes, that we will need to inform the grandchildren soon also. It would be difficult for them to hear negative things from others who don't know what an awesome grandfather he is. 6-year-old Maddie really loves her poppy. There seems to be a great contradiction to this current system. This registry prevents so many from working during a time that many employers cannot seem to find good help. So rather than becoming actively employed and paying taxes, many are jobless and living off SSI, unemployment benefits, and Social Security. With this bill passed, there would be more employable, tax-paying citizens available. I myself am 65 years old, and I must continue to work for at least 5 more years to help support and carry insurance for both of us. I watched my husband struggle with much depression over being branded with a scarlet letter for 25 years over one mistake that happened 30 years ago. By supporting our loved ones, collateral community members such as parents, spouses, siblings, etc., are vulnerable targets of scammers or angry neighbors. Some worry that they may even lose value on their homes. As the wife of one of the people on the registry, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to a very small part of our enduring trauma. I speak for my whole family when I urge you to pass this bill. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Raymond. Comment or question from members of the committee? Comment or question? If not, thank you very much for joining us today to offer your testimony.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to the entire panel. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm here testifying today in strong support of SB 1194. In 1997, when this all began for me, I never had the opportunity to accept or even reject something that would not only burden me, but my family for generations to come. I was always told, don't let your mistakes define you, don't let your past hijack your future. But the way I'm currently defined and portrayed, that's not at all possible. There's no redemption for us on the registry. I was recently displayed on TikTok, and now my great nieces and nephews have been exposed to the registry and sex in a way that should have never occurred. They have seen an image of me as a monster. This cycle will continue until the day I die, thus giving me a life sentence and a death sentence. Although when first contacted about having to register, it was a big blow for 10 years. Then the sentence continued to grow and grow. As time went on, doors began to close, life became more and more difficult, although it may have not been its purpose to render me somewhat helpless and useless. Basically, I'm in a prison outside of prison, an outcast amongst outcasts. The harassment continues after 25 years. No one else has to endure this. I and the community I speak for today are seen as the ruins of society. We are all subjected to a one-strike law. I have paid a hefty price already, and punishment continues. The next chapter may include my 13-year-old son or even my grandson. It started with my deceased father, who was a captain of Bridgeport Police Department. He himself was harassed anonymously by his peers. I single-handedly ruined his legacy, and I have that to live with. I have truly dearly paid the price.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the committee? Representative Fishman.
Thank you, sir, for coming here today. I know it's got to be difficult, with cameras and stuff like that. I just want to, I don't know if you've been here all day, but I agree. Comes from here. We're going to get something done. If we required some sort of form, you knew the actual year that this happened, would you be able, you think, to give enough information on a form, when you were arrested, when you were convicted, stuff like that, and, swear off that you haven't gotten in trouble, you got nothing pending? Is that something you could do?
After 25 years, there's basically nothing I wouldn't do.
Understood. Yeah, I want to be able to give you that end of the rainbow, that's really a bad term because of the hell you've been through. So I got it, right? But I want to be able to give you something you can attain to. So I know when, I got arrested for drunk driving in 1986. I know it was the August of 1986, and I went through a diversionary program and I got rid of it. And I don't forget that. It was, it was a bad summer for me. So I just want to be able, that if we say to people, in order to get this, you got to fill out this form, that I got people that are going to be able to get, cleared. So I thank you for coming here today. Once again, thank you for showing your face and explaining how this is hurting you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from the committee? Further questions or comments? If not, sir, let me echo that, and thank you for sticking with us today and being here. Dwight Dickerson.
Good afternoon. My name is Dwight Dickerson, and this is my daughter, Talana Monique Dickerson. We are one of the families, of many families, that received a letter several years after I came home to register, and so we're here in support of SB 1194. Since I came home, my life is a little different from a lot of individuals. Our family been very successful. I've graduated from Yale University. I have a master's also from UNH. My wife and daughter and I started an organization called TriCore, LLC, Empowerment Training Group. We worked with CSSD. We worked with many other nonprofit organizations with those who are returning from reentry, returning from incarceration. I'm an author, and by all means, my life has been very successful. And even though with all those successes, according to the state appellate court, it states the only reprieve I can get is legislation, through legislation. So I'm here to ask for the passing of 1194, because even when we are successful, we're still treated as second-class citizens. And there's no other reprieve I've had. And at this time, if my daughter would like to say something.
Hello, good afternoon at this point.
Ma'am, you know, I'm sorry. Are you signed up to testify?
No.
We
That's
can't.
fine.
Unfortunately, yeah, we appreciate you being
problem.
here and supporting your
I'll be
dad,
here
but we
supporting my
can't.
dad.
All right, appreciate that.
And with that, I'm just saying that even after 25 years, with all the successes that I've had, it only comes through being legislatively. There's been many people who have received reprieve from the court has done a lot less. A lot less.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
That's
sir.
it.
We appreciate you being here and appreciate your advocacy. Questions or comments from the committee? If not, thanks for sticking with us.